Before we kick off this conversation, I want to thank everybody who's been supporting us on Patreon over at patreon.com/about-to-break. Thank you to everyone who's been giving $1 or more to help offset the cost of this thing and also just show your support. It means a ton to me, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. Also, thank you to everyone who's supporting us by leaving 5-star reviews on iTunes or wherever you listen to this thing. That's how people hear about it. So if you haven't done so right now, would you take a moment? Would you give a little 5-star review? Let people know what you think. It means so much, and it makes such a big difference. I gotta admit, I'm going to be totally honest on this, completely transparent. I have no idea what I should say to you right now. I don't really feel like promoting things or plugging shows, but if you want to come hang out, I will be at Scott Neary's Booby Trap next Wednesday, the 17th, and that would be a really fun show for you to come hang out at. So if you're in LA, hit me up, send me a message, or give us a call on the break line, and give me your name and email, and I will add you to the guest list. It would be awesome to see you there. So the 17th, I'll be at Scott Neary's Booby Trap. This week, I'm grateful that the family is coming with me. I've booked an MC event. I'm going to be MCing a conference in Scottsdale. So we're stoked. We're loading up the minivan, and we're heading out on the road with the whole fam in the minivan. It doesn't get better than that. I absolutely am not joking. I love it. So it's going to be a good week for me. And next Wednesday, I'll be at Scott Neary's Booby Trap. If you're around, come say hey. This episode is a fun one. I sat down with my buddy Rmax Goodwin, and we talk about this, but his folks live up on Mount Washington, which I had never been to in LA. And it is probably like the most beautiful view of the entire city. It's gorgeous. Simultaneously, it's gorgeous because there's so many flowers and plants and blossoms, and I am a very allergic person. So about halfway through this interview, you'll hear it here, but both Rmax and I were overcome with sinus things happening. We took a little Sudafed break. I'm not ashamed to say it. But it was a great conversation. Rmax is an amazing performer. He's an incredible magician. If you ever get a chance to see him, you need to do that. If you want to find out how to do that, go to his website, rmaxgoodwin.com, and you can find out a little bit more about him, where he's going to be, and how you can see him perform. But this is such a great combo. I feel like every now and then I sit down with someone, and my thoughts kind of go here and there and everywhere. And sometimes I'm challenged in certain areas, and other times I'm excited about different things. And every now and then you sit down with someone and you feel like you're just on the same wavelength with your career and your thoughts and your trajectory. And I felt like Rmax and I had a little bit of a syncing up. We kind of Bluetoothed this thing. It was pretty great. So I think you're going to enjoy it. I know I had a great time. I hope you have a great time. Here it is, episode 108 of the About to Break podcast with my buddy, magician Rmax Goodwin.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hey everybody, welcome to About to Break. I'm your host, Taylor Hughes, and right now I am sitting overlooking all of Los Angeles with my buddy Rmax Goodwin. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for letting us crash the place today.
Yeah, of course.
We're here with David Stryker. Say hi, David.
Hey, guys.
I've always wanted to have like another person on the podcast that I could like be like, hey, how's it going over there? You know, there's always like a guy in a booth. Right. We don't have a booth. We could just pretend no one knows.
The producer.
We don't even have a guy here, right? Yeah. We are this is your parents' house.
This is my parents' house. Yeah, I'm dog sitting for a week as my parents enjoy Italy.
Yeah, they go to Italy and then they're like, "Hey, you want to come watch the dogs?"
Yeah, can you? And it sounds really nice at first, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a mini vacation because I
change
live
of
like
scenery.
half an hour away from here,
Right.
and so it's nice. And then you realize like, wow, there's a lot of responsibility that I have to do here,
I
you
have
know?
to keep pets alive. They're adorable dogs.
They're really quite nice. They're really nice, and their biggest redeeming qualities is that they're just really cute.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
they're so
And
sweet. They're so sweet. I love that. Like when I was in high school, I always had this dream of like, you know, your parents go out of town, then you throw some big rager. That's what you see
Sure.
in all the movies. I love that we're at a point in our life when your parents ask you to house sit and you invite someone over to do a podcast.
That's the
It's true.
level of adulthood we've entered. Okay, so walking around your house, I can tell your parents they're I want to say groovy. I don't think I've ever used that word in my life, but they seem like groovy
They're
people.
absolute hippies. Yeah, they're hippies.
Like tell everyone about those posters.
So my dad was in. Let's see, he was in New York in the 60s, like 1967. He got out of the Navy.
Yeah.
And so Nico and the Velvet Underground got kicked out of their apartment for having too many of their parties. And he assumed their 7-bedroom apartment in
moly.
New York City for like $125 a month.
Oh
And
my goodness.
so the walls of the apartment were lined in all of these rock posters.
Yeah.
And so
They're killer, and they're all originals.
yeah, they're all originals, and so a bunch of them were just destroyed by various things. But my parents have framed like half a dozen of them and put them up and stuff. And they've got all sorts of great old memorabilia from that period. Yeah, right.
It's a weird realization when you become an adult, and then you realize, oh, our parents are they're just people. They're just people like
Right.
us trying to figure out stuff.
Sure.
Because when you're little, your parents are superheroes, right? Like
Right.
they can do anything. They're they never have any problems. They're not.
Absolutely.
And then at least for me, I mean, and then growing up was like, oh yeah, they deal with stuff too.
Sure. Yeah. And then, I see this wonderful house that they have, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, they really had their shit figured out.
I know, man.
They really, they nailed this.
Yeah, this is like probably the best view I've ever seen of LA. You can see, you look one direction and you see all of Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and you look the other way and you can see all the way to Pasadena, and like
Good content for a podcast. Yeah.
it's
The view
this
is
great.
phenomenal.
Yeah. This is the best visual for an audio podcast I think ever.
The
Yeah.
green. Yeah. It's really quite nice.
We're just going to spend the next 45 minutes describing in detail what we're looking at.
It's true.
When we were walking through your house, taking an unofficial tour, David and I were just like, "Can we learn about you by looking at your things?" And we went in your old bedroom and I noticed some headshots from very
man.
young.
Oh,
Like,
boy. Yeah.
like you jumped into this
Yeah.
entertainment thing.
I think
when
I
you were a
did.
little
Yeah,
one.
the way that it started, I was in middle school, and a friend of mine had gotten some gig doing some modeling work for like Gap,
Oh, yeah.
And this was when we were maybe 10 years old, and I was told that he got to keep the clothes at the end. And I thought, oh wow, that's really cool.
That's a
like
sweet
that's
gig.
that's great. I've always been interested in fashion at the time.
Yeah.
I guess it was Gap, and so I thought, wow, I got to get myself in on this deal.
man.
And so my parents, begrudgingly said, all right, fine, I guess, if this is what he wants to do. So, we did headshots, and my parents took me to auditions all the time and didn't really go anywhere. I did it for maybe a year or so, and I got some auditions. It's funny, actually, one of the the closest I ever got to actually landing anything was a McDonald's commercial where they needed somebody who could do card flourishes.
Okay.
And by the way, this was back in like 2000. So like
Well, yeah,
card flourishes wasn't even like
it wasn't
thing,
a big thing. Yeah.
So, but I was maybe one of the only ones who could do like fans and spring the cards. And
How old were you at the time when you're
maybe like 10 or 11, something like that.
Yeah.
And anyway, and so they said at the end, okay, could you cut your hair? And I said, oh no, no way, I'm not cutting my hair.
Yeah.
And at that time it was really long hair, and anyway, I think that was the closest I ever got, and I chose like my hair over a career.
That's the best.
Maybe that's an overstatement, but yeah. I remember like I came out and my dad was like, "How'd it go?" And I was like, "Well, they asked if I would cut my hair." I said no, and he was like, "What are you talking about? Your hair's gonna grow back. What are you talking about?"
That's so good.
But
you're now the second guest on this podcast to give up on a gig, on a commercial gig, because they didn't want to cut their hair.
That's great.
Matt-
Who was the first one?
Matt McCarthy. He's a commercial actor, and a comedian.
Okay.
And he was doing a commercial audition, and he didn't really even want to do it, and they were like gung ho about him, and he had really long hair, and they're like, would you? It was either cut his hair or shave his beard. It was shave his beard. Would you shave your beard for this? And he looked at the script, and he went, "Not for this."
Not for this. That's great. I mean, in such like a dignityless industry,
Right.
you have to have some sort of line.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did that for about a year or so, and man, it's a ton of work for your parents. I mean, they're schlepping you across town and everything
Right.
at the worst time, and My heart really wasn't like super into it. Like I said, I first got interested because I was like, oh wow, free clothes. Okay. So yeah, dropped that pretty quickly. But now we have left over some terribly embarrassing headshots. So I guess it wasn't all for naught.
And did you have friends that were doing that stuff when you were a kid, or?
No, I mean, I knew this one kid, and he probably just fell into it. I imagine it was the type of thing where, you know, he was at the mall someday, and somebody said like, "Hey, you know, we're filming this. All you gotta do is walk across the store or something like that." And but otherwise, no, I didn't have any friends doing it, and my parents definitely weren't pushing me into it. They were like, okay, I mean, if you really want to do this, we'll do this. But you know,
see, that's cool. But it sounds like because you were doing magic and doing this, it sounds like they were pretty supportive with whatever.
100%. Yeah. I mean, they brought me to the magic store whenever I wanted to, and like, you know,
what was your magic store? Which store were you?
Hollywood Magic.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, the guys at the Hollywood Magic were incredibly influential on me.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, they showed me.
Do you remember who was working there? Like, trying to think of who would have been there.
So the one that I was closest to was Jeff Thomas, who's since moved back to the I forget if it's Kentucky or Louisiana. Anyway,
okay.
Jeff Thomas, I was good buddies with. He really showed me the ropes. Showed me like, you know, you should look into getting JB Bobo's, coin magic, or whatever, and Sax dice and stuff. And but then there was another Jeff whose last name is escaping me. Newell Unfried was there at that time.
Okay,
I think.
Yeah. I remember when I would go in there. Like Jonathan Neal worked there.
Neal. Yep. Yeah, I remember Jonathan Neal was there. Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to think. I met Shutagawa there for the first time. He wasn't working,
that's the first
but
place I met Shoot.
Yep,
yeah,
I met him there, and Paul Wilson I met there, and yeah, a lot of people who, in hindsight, I was like, probably should have respected
that.
him.
That was a fantastic shop. Like I remember going there. My parents would bring us down to LA for stuff, and I would be like, okay, just come back later for me. I'll be here.
Yeah.
Like, go do whatever.
Sure.
Go look wherever you want. Go have lunch. I will be here. I won't leave.
Right.
And the poor guys behind the counter. I remember Jonathan Neal showing me every trick in that display case.
Yeah, I'm sure he did everything expertly.
Could you do a demo of that? What's this one? Can you do a demo of that?
Oh, man. Yeah, and it was massive too, you know. I mean, most magic stores that are still around are pretty small, you know. And that was a large space, and maybe particularly so being a kid, you know, it felt even larger.
Yeah, you're right.
But
well, it seems like nowadays when you do find a brick and mortar magic shop, which are very few,
right?
You know, usually to stay in business, they have like the 10 tricks that sell really well.
Sure.
And then maybe a couple things,
right?
You know, I feel like Hollywood Magic was almost a library of like, because
it was
back then there wasn't the internet like there is now. Like that's where you had to go to get stuff.
Sure, yeah, and that's where everybody went. I mean, yeah, that's
everything was catalogs. Like,
yeah,
I remember getting like catalogs for different magic companies and being like, oh man, look at this one.
Oh wow,
I have to like mail away for stuff.
That was even before me. I think of like, you know, I didn't learn on YouTube or whatever. I learned from DVDs, but man, catalogs, that was even longer ago.
Oh yeah, I remember sitting with like, I would get a catalog for a magic shop.
Yeah.
And I would read the description and then try to figure out how could they do it. Like,
oh wow,
you know,
that's hard to do.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just like, oh, what's a way you could do that? And I remember a couple times being a kid and trying to like, I mean, I didn't know how to do stuff. I just tried to do, I'm going to do this trick I read about in the catalog, but without knowing any method or whatever.
But I mean, that's a great exercise in creativity, man. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. It was fun. I wish that, you know, I feel like I heard a musician talking recently about how when they're working on a new piece that they don't listen to a lot of other music because they don't want to be influenced. But it's so hard, especially in magic. Like you want to see what's out there and who's doing what. And
and it's a weird balance because on one hand, like if I went and just I've thought about asking just lay people, okay, imagine just an incredible magic trick. What would be something really cool, you know? They end up just regurgitating some magic trick that they saw. You know, like it's hard for them to come up with something. And on one level you think like, oh, maybe they are going to have something really creative because they're not just going to refer to, you know, everything that they know in the way that we do.
Right.
But oftentimes they just can't think of anything, you know? Sometimes the creativity comes from knowing so much, you know, that you're able to say like, you just know what's possible, you know?
Yeah.
And you need to know what's possible to be able to create something, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I know what you mean. But
It was fun the other day. We were at the Magic Castle the other night,
yeah,
and we're watching Mike Bashada downstairs,
right.
and he was doing something that using a technique that you've spent a lot of time working on.
Sure.
And he did this one thing with it, and you and I just looked at each other like, "Oh, that was cool."
right.
I love because you probably have this happen all the time. People go like, "Do you not enjoy it since you know how it's done?" Or
Right.
if you see another performer, do you just automatically know what they're doing?
Sure.
And I always try to explain to people, it's like if you're a guitar player,
Right.
you know the chords, you know the progressions,
Right.
you know what's possible on the guitar.
Right.
But it's still cool to watch someone do something with it that you're like, wow, I know what he's doing. I'm still
Absolutely.
amazed he pulled it off.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like, we both dislike bad magic when we see that, of course.
Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah, right.
Could you describe it and name names?
Yeah, I'll write down some things. Yeah. But no, I mean, when you see somebody who's really good, it's inspiring, and also particularly when you see somebody do something that was with the like available resources that you've had all along,
right?
But they do it and you don't. You're like, oh man, like that. Like that thing that Mike did, it was this, a card trick, and nothing was really like brand new about it. It wasn't some sleight of hand that had never been around or some technology or something like that. It was like, this has been available for people,
and nobody's thought
of it, you know? And it was like, and that's really quite inspiring because it's like, I think you see it more often with cards than anything. There's just so much available, but it's like deck of cards has been around for 400 years and people are still coming up with things that are really cool and novel.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. When I don't know if you deal with this, but like creative block, or you feel like, man, I'm hitting my head against the wall, and I feel like have we come up with everything? And then you see someone do something with a item that you have with you every day, and you go, oh, I never noticed that things were possible of doing this.
Yeah, no, it's I think for the most part it's inspiring. Sometimes it's like, oh man, they just did that and I didn't think of that.
And then you just mad. You're like, why,
how could I not have come up with that?
I don't know if it's just I don't think it's just magic. I think it's entertainment in general, but there's so much peaks and valleys. There's these moments where you either feel really accomplished and successful about something.
Yeah.
And then within minutes can go the total polar opposite. Well, sorry, I'm sniffing. We are outside amongst beautiful scenery, and yet this California super bloom is killing our allergies, both of us right now.
I know, it's tough. I think you're right about that the hills and valleys of kind of success that you're talking about. I think particularly in something like our field and our specific industry within magic, is that like we're constantly doing gigs, right?
Yep.
And so every week we are, booking gigs and we're not booking gigs, and every week we are having great shows and not having great shows, and there's like that constant like, oh, you succeeded today, and oh, you didn't succeed, and oh, and that's on some level it's easy to quantify your like success, but it's the flip side is that it's easy to quantify your failure. So
for sure, man,
it's tough, and I think I've had a trouble saying like you need to separate what is just having your self-worth be a reflection of simply like whether or not you got a gig or didn't get a gig that day, or whether or not you got a standing ovation that night or not, and just like, okay, yes, obviously this is relevant to my life, it's a big part of my life, but it shouldn't be the one thing that dictates whether or not I'm happy or fulfilled or whatever. It's tough, but
it's super tough, man. And it's also, it's strange that a lot of times we'll get asked to do opportunities.
Sure.
You find out about 50%, sometimes at best, of the things that actually do go through and end up being booked.
Right.
So there's those moments where you get really excited at like the possibility that this thing could happen. And it's like, oh, that's going to take care of bills for a while and all this stuff. And you're all jazzed. And then you find out someone else booked it and you're like, I'm so...
Sure.
On one hand, I'm so happy for them, but on the other hand, I'm so sad for me.
Right. No, it's true. It's tough.
I equate it to, it's like if you're a dentist or a doctor or anything where you go to an office and do that thing every day.
Yeah.
You can go on vacation for 2 weeks and you don't feel your self-worth drop because when you come back, you're going to do that thing again.
Right.
But in entertainment, especially in like with what we do, where it's from gig to gig to gig, you can go, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks with nothing big happening.
Sure.
And it's like, well, yeah, I guess I'm still a performer, but I'm not performing this week.
Right.
And it messes with your mind. It
does, yeah.
How have you found anything for you that helps you kind of stay centered when those moments are coming, or what do you do?
No, I feel like one thing that I've done when I started doing this professionally 4 or 5 years ago, or not professionally, but professionally and full time.
Right.
I wrote down all my goals.
Okay.
And it would be goals for like a year, basically.
Okay.
And
were these financial goals or like
it was a
type of shows you
combination
wanted
of stuff.
to do?
Yeah, it was a combination of stuff. It was like I want to, this is how much money I want to make. This is what I want to start performing. This is where I want to be performing. I want these types of gigs, those sorts of things. I need a new promo video or whatever it may be. And each year I've done that, and it that has been really good as far as just organizing my year, and being able to say like, look, you haven't had a great week this week, but that's okay. You're on track because you did these 7 things that were on your list. You've got these things that you haven't done, but this is why you haven't done them, and it doesn't make sense for you to have accomplished them yet, so that's fine. And you're still on these various goals, and that's cool. So I feel like that sort of longer term, not that long term, but just a year perspective is good for getting through those days or whatever where it's like, really didn't do a hell of a lot today. Am I an unproductive failure? So,
which is so funny too, because then on the flip side, we have the social media realm where you shared like some cool opportunity you got that was 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And every one of your friends and everyone that is even a competitor is going like, this guy's killing it and he's doing all this stuff, and you're sitting on the couch going, what am I doing wrong?
What am I doing wrong? Yeah, exactly. You're flipping through Instagram saying the exact same thing about everybody else. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's that's the tough part of it. Yeah,
I like that gauge you have of saying like, here's my goals. These are the things I want to work on, and and checking the boxes of, okay, I did do that. That did happen,
Yeah,
because that's another thing too that I think our celebration of accomplishments is so momentary,
right?
Because we're quickly on to the next thing.
Yep. Yeah.
And I remember one time, Katie said to me, it was like one of these seasons where it was like, I want to get this, and then it would happen. And then it'd be, I want to get this, and then it would happen.
Yeah.
And I was telling her like, oh, this thing's coming up, and it's going to be cool if we do this. And she's like, she looked at me, and she, with all the love in the world, said, "Are you going to be happy then?"
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, how much is enough? Like,
yeah.
What's enough for you?
It's
like,
tough.
you live or die based on whether the phone rings or you get an email today. Like,
right. No, it's a terrible mindset, and I worry because I have been incredibly, I've worked hard and stuff, but I've been incredibly lucky those last 4 years in terms of how my like quote unquote business, if you want to call it that, has like grown. And I worry like, oh man, is my like modicum of happiness only a product of like having had these like external successes? And it's obviously going to be the case at some point. I'm not going to have a good year, or I may have a terrible year, and like, what am I going to do then? Because it's going to happen. And I'm not sure if I am prepared to really weather that on just like an emotional level,
I think conversations like these are critical because I think it's when we internalize all these feelings.
Yeah.
And when we internalize it, not only does it eat away at us, but we also start to feel like I'm the only one who's feeling this way.
Sure.
No one else is talking about this.
Absolutely. Right.
And
yeah, and to that point, I think that on like one of the things that I realized at the beginning was to, and somebody articulated this. I heard it referred to as dreaming out loud.
Oh, yeah.
And I found that it's very productive for me to say out loud what my goals are. Short term, longer term, whatever it may be, because then you're accountable to that person,
Yeah.
And whether it's going to happen or not, you have in your mind the idea that in a month maybe that person may see you again and say like, so by the way, like how'd that go? And I'm going to have to answer that,
Yep.
and I have to answer to myself when I really articulate it out loud.
Right.
And so I think it's relevant even on something like this, which is less operational, as you can't quite measure it quite as much as like, did you buy that other house or something,
Right.
But it's still, it's good to talk about it out loud for that reason too, is being able to hold yourself accountable to these sorts of like values, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. I think that one of the things that's been lacking specifically in our industry is there's so many products out there and lectures and tools and books on how to grow your business and how to perform, better and on stage. But there's very few resources on how to navigate the emotional side of what being a performer for a living does to somebody.
It's tough. I mean, obviously everybody knows the challenges that, celebrities face.
Right.
We're not celebrities in any way, and the challenges that we face are very different, but the challenges are, hey, we are by ourselves all day long, pretty much, and then we're on stage in some capacity for a couple of hours, but then you're not really interacting with people in a normal sense because you're on in a way,
right?
And then you're in your hotel room by yourself, and that's great. I mean, you're just sitting there.
Right. The dog is wagging its
dog's wagging its tail.
Yeah.
It's having a little dream.
Having a little dream.
How's it going, Bradley?
Bradley's dreaming, and the only part of his body that's moving, his tail's going like crazy. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, you become isolated.
Yeah, I think
you're back in your hotel, and you're like, and people are like, "Oh, you travel for work? Right. That's so cool!" And it's like, I saw on a plane.
Yeah, I sat on a plane.
An Uber.
Right.
I sat in a hotel.
Yeah,
I did the reverse, and I came home.
Yep, exactly.
I was gone for 30 hours and I performed for 45 minutes.
Right. Yeah, it's true. If you're on a long drive or something like that for a couple of hours. And so, yeah, I think it is tough, and we don't really talk about it in our industry in any way. And maybe that's partly because it's such a male dominated industry, Yeah. And, men just in general don't really have those conversations. And so it's particularly acute in our industry. But, we've faced recently the worst results of, potentially, in terms of some of the, deaths that we've had, in the magic world. So yeah, it's tough. And I guess with everything, everybody's constantly, puffing their feathers up. And when you talk to them,
that's across the board in entertainment, I think in any job, but, it is funny because, if you're an accountant or a realtor, like,
right,
people know if you're selling houses or not.
Sure.
Like, if you're a realtor and we live in the same city, I know who sold that house. Like,
totally.
I can look it up right now. I can probably figure out how much you're making.
Absolutely.
I can figure out how well you're doing.
Lawyers.
Right.
Yeah,
but in entertainment, so much of it is like, because the work happens on our own, or these projects that you're working with someone else and no one sees.
Yeah.
It gives this ambiguity that allows everybody to be like, yeah, I'm totally doing this and that.
Yeah.
And what happens is you have a culture of people who are, hanging out, looking like celebrities at cafes at night, spending every dime they made at their minimum wage job that morning,
right,
just to play a part.
Yeah.
And hoping that one day it's going to be different,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think,
absolutely.
Especially as society started to ask some pretty tough questions of individuals in a good way.
Yeah.
I think we need to start asking some tough questions of ourselves and saying, like, hey, if we really care about being genuine and real, like, let's start internally and not feel like we got to act perfect all the time.
Absolutely. No, it's tough. I mean, and yet it's also, I mean, I think that it's difficult for entertainers like ourselves, where we are supposed to be larger than life at the same time.
Right.
And, I would be curious how many corporations want to, see the other side of our lives, or, they want to see us as just being this like absolute total success all the time. And that's, I understand where they're coming from, but, to say like, oh, by the way, I've I'm dealing with this other stuff, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the question: is if I'm open and I'm vulnerable, is that going to negatively impact my career?
right. Yeah, exactly.
Like if I share, my challenge or my struggle in a certain area, is that going to disqualify me from doing certain things?
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
It's tough because it can't just be one person doing it. It's got to be a community thing where it's like,
right,
we allow people the opportunity to fail in certain areas.
Sure.
So that we can all be better and help each other.
Right.
Yeah, man. And we're back. We took a Sudafed break.
Sudafed break. That's right.
Once again, proving that we are wild young men. We stopped for allergies and humans. Yes, right. I love that as we're talking about being real and vulnerable, we're like being wildly attacked by whatever pollen is in the air.
Right. I know. Oh man, it's tough. It's rough.
It's encouraging, man, to hear you talk like this because I know both of us we're in a lucky position to be able to make our living performing.
Right.
And I think it's important for people to know that even if you're paying the bills and doing good gigs, it's still challenging.
Yeah.
And I think, you alluded to it, but this past year or two in entertainment, we've had some like amazing comedians and authors and celebrities and magicians that have taken their lives over different reasons that we don't all know.
Sure, of course.
But these were all people. I mean, I'm thinking of 3 different folks right now that were all considered wildly successful.
Right.
And other people looked up to and thought, man, if I could just get to where they're at, then I'll be happy. And I think it's important for us to realize that we got to have these conversations. We got to take care of ourselves along the way because it's not like it just gets better with more money.
Sure. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I think about, like, I remember right when I started, like, let's see, this was like 4 years ago, I think. Somebody said, okay, like, you should make a 5-year plan. And I did. I made a 5-year plan, and I guess I'm not quite there yet, but I put these things on that were like a year, 2 year, 3 years out, just in terms of goals across spectrums. And I was like, wow, this is ambitious, man. I don't know if you're going to do this, and because you have no idea what the hell you're doing. And and because of various contacts I've made along the way and whatever, like, I have been able to reach all of them, and it hasn't changed shit. I mean, like, it just hasn't changed anything. I mean, I live a really comfortable life and everything, and that's great, obviously. But like, all the foundational stuff is still there. So perhaps because magic is also so male dominated as well, those conversations are either even less common, and maybe too because there's such this overlap of amateur and professional, or maybe not even that, but like the people who are really good, but for whatever reason they've decided to keep a traditional job, they're like professional quality, but they're part-time, but mixed in with the full-time, and I don't know if that has affected it as well.
Well, I would argue, and I could be wrong at this. I mean, I had a regular job maybe not a regular job, but I had a steady full-time job for years and did magic on the side.
Yeah.
But now having done just magic, there is a huge difference.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, you're not completely dependent upon your art to pay the bills.
Sure.
It changes the game.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, I'm sure. I think, I don't doubt that for a second. I was just thinking in the sense that because the magic community has this diverse range of people who some of them are professional, some of them are amateurs, some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time.
Okay.
Maybe that obscures to some degree the ability to talk about the challenges of, of the industry.
That's true.
But, I'm so looking forward to the day where I just have everything booked 6 months in advance, and that's just not happening. I mean, like, I have events that are booked, a year in advance, and then I have events where it's like, you're not doing anything tomorrow? No, I'm not. And it would be so much easier if everything was booked 6 months in advance, but that's just not realistic. I think pretty much for at any level.
I would agree, and I had this idea when I first went full time that like, okay, well, I can probably bank on whatever happened this year. It'll be like that in those months. Like, if I had a solid October, like one time, I think like 3 years ago, I had an October where I did 28 different events.
Oh my God.
In 1 month. It was insane.
Wow.
And then the very next year, I did 4 events.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened to me this January. I mean, I had 2 really great Januaries in 2017 and 2018.
Right.
And then 2019, I'm like, what the heck is happening? You know, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah.
And it's tough because I think we look for a reason for everything. We you know, we're just like so insecure about it that we have to have a reason for like what's going on, you know. And so it's like, well, it's August, that's why there's nothing, or we're doing well because it's December. And then we do that with gigs too. It's like you don't get a gig and immediately it's like, well, it's because I said this, or it's because I responded too soon, or because I just responded too late, you know. And you don't know. For all you know, it's just like it just didn't happen. Like you did nothing wrong,
right?
And it's totally fine,
right?
And you just move, just move on. Or and it's like sometimes it has nothing to do with
That's so good to remember. It's so good to realize that there are so many factors outside of just what you're doing that affect this.
Right.
Like this week, I'm doing the Castle.
Sure.
And the Castle is a perfect reminder.
Yes, it really is.
You can literally do 3 times in one night the same exact thing.
Yes.
And get 3 completely different reactions.
Yes. Yeah. No, I completely. I remember. And this was a question because I started doing the brunches. That's where I started.
Yeah.
As you probably did too.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my job throughout high school, and that's a microcosm of what you're going through right now, where I did 5 shows in a day, and I would be like, all right, so the first show was good. What the hell happened on the second one? You know? And I remember asking Mac King this because he lectured to the junior program, and he basically said what you just said. It just happens, you know, because he's got the same thing. I mean, that guy's been doing the same show for 30 years, and he does it, 5 times, whatever it is. And sometimes it just goes great, and sometimes it doesn't.
It seems like the guys who have been doing it for a long time, a lot of the ones I talk to, they've gotten to this point where they're kind of somewhat at peace with that. Like they realize, I mean, I know that technically, like I could tell you that, like logically, like like
of course,
like maybe this show you had a group that just heard bad news before they came in,
right?
Or like. But there's still that weird thing in your head of like, you're like, okay, well, did I raise my arm when I said this line?
Yeah, right.
That show. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You start to think that like there's some magic thing that if I do this,
it's tough. Yeah, it's because I mean there is something very subtle about a lot of what we do, and so it is related to at times just.
I wore the blue tie yesterday. Was it the blue tie?
Right, but sometimes it is some little thing, that makes something better or makes it worse or whatever, and so then you just extrapolate and think that's relates to everything,
and to think like
but it's not always the case. So it's like you alluded to, it's easier to say it than it is to really internalize it and let yourself be okay with it when it doesn't work in your favor.
Oh yeah. What are you really excited about right now?
Oh,
I feel like you and I are I feel like we haven't talked about this too much, but I feel like we might be in a similar spot right now. Just
probably, I don't know,
with what we're thinking about on things. So,
what am I really excited for? Well, okay, I'm excited. This is maybe not what you're going for, but I'm excited to see Helder's show.
Oh,
Helder's got a show coming out at the Geffen in a couple months. That's right,
yeah.
And I haven't seen him work in a while. And last time that I was at the Geffen, I saw Derek's show, and that was phenomenal. I don't know if you saw that.
I never saw it.
You missed out, man. You missed out.
I didn't see his show. I didn't see Nothing to Hide. I never saw it.
Oh wow!
I haven't seen it. Like I've just heard the lore of these.
Yeah,
I've heard everyone share their take on what they saw and what they experienced. But
well, yeah,
can't believe I missed it.
Both were phenomenal shows, very different. And anyway, I think Helder's one of the best, card magicians in the world right now.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what he's doing. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying about Mike, where I see Helder's show and he blows me away with something that I know exactly how it works. Or Helder's one of the few where you'll see Helder's show and you will not know how it's done. But invariably there's things that you have an idea about, and you're like, wow, that was just so clever, you know. So I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to that because it's been a while since I was really inspired by somebody else's show. And then in my personal life, I mean, I think one thing that I've been so when I started doing it full time, I was pretty good at like close-up magic. That's what I did at the castle for a long time, and that was where my strength was.
Yeah.
But I knew obviously, like, okay, look, you're doing this full time. You can't just do close-up magic.
There's a limitation on
I
what type of
started
things you
working
do.
on stage material, but it really started from nothing, and so I had a rough go at it for a while doing stage work, and my stage work has drastically improved because it had to, and because it started at zero. And that it was a real like experimental process of, you know, doing something, never doing it again, doing something new, never doing that again, you know, moving things around and stuff. And one thing that I never did in the show, and partly is because I just didn't know who I was, but have a lot of my own persona in the show. And that was one of the strengths of working at the castle. Like, I remember the first week that I did at the castle when I was a junior was, you know, it was fine. It was all like totally fine material. Then the second time that I did Future Stars, I thought, you know, the best material is all the hardest versions of every trick. So I went out and I learned just like insanely complex stuff. And you know, I did a week at the castle and it was terrible. It was boring. Everybody was like, whatever, who gives a shit? Nobody cared that like, oh, you just did this insane traveler's routine, you know? And that was a good learning experience. And then over the next few years, I developed just sort of organically a show that was really me. You know, it was my show, and it was throughout the shows peppered with who I am in a way that you do really well. But it wasn't all like autobiographical stuff. And my stage show hasn't had that at all. And I have felt in the last couple of months that for whatever reason, maybe it's just I'm becoming more confident with the show and therefore allowing myself to be me more or something. But like, I am coming into the show more, and that I think is becoming is very satisfying and will ultimately create just a better show for everybody. But also just you know, make me more engaged and interested in doing stuff. You know, and so that's been challenging. Those like who, you know, figuring out who I am and what it is that I want to say without being pretentious or cheesy or trite, because it's so easy to say like, you know,
it's very,
you know, I learned this about astrophysics and doesn't that relate to this card trick? You know what I mean? Like, okay, you know, so, and I studied philosophy, and I still am interested in philosophy and read philosophy, and every time I have a thought about incorporating it, immediately I'm like, well, man, does that sound dumb? You know, it's like incredibly pretentious and just like doesn't go anywhere, you know? But you can incorporate who you are as a person in other ways besides saying like, so by the way, I played soccer when I grew up, and therefore I'm going to do this soccer ball trick. You know, you can incorporate it in, You know, like Matt King, I feel like that's
natural.
him. You know, it without him being like, so by the way, I grew up in Kentucky. You know, it's like
Well, and I think that the difference is like when you watch Mac's show, I feel like he would joke like that and talk like that if you were having dinner with him.
Absolutely.
It doesn't feel like he's like, now let me say some random thing about my life.
No, it's
and so that's even one thing I've realized unintentionally, but when you're trying to, when there's a topic that you want to address or present or share on stage, if you just have conversations with people about it, you just talk about that, you know. If you want to talk about astrophysics, I don't even know how to say it. I couldn't tell you what
it's the super bloom.
Perfect. It's the super bloom. I'm dying. But if you are interested in a topic, you know, like you know, astrophysics,
you got it.
And you're thinking, how do I communicate this on stage? For a second, just when you're at dinner with someone, go, dude, I was reading this about this study. What do you think about that? And see what, I mean, you can tell in a conversation with someone what lights them up. And when they lean in, they go, really? The whole, I mean, I do a thing with a Rubik's Cube, which I forever did not do Rubik's Cube magic because to me, I was just like, it's a puzzle. You know, it's just a puzzle.
Sure.
But then for me, I realized, okay, everyone can relate to it. Everyone's played with one.
Yeah.
And then for me, it was the bit about how many different ways you can mix it up. Like 43 quintillion. Like
Big
statistically, I don't even. It wouldn't be statistically, but like they say that if you mix
mathematically,
yeah. Like just the sheer math of it, that you could mix it up every second from the beginning of time as we know it, we still wouldn't have gone through all the patterns.
Yeah.
Just talking about that in conversation with people and seeing them lean in and be like, wait, really? What?
Right.
What does that look like? I don't
Right.
know. Let's look it up,
Sure.
And that led to a great piece on stage.
Absolutely.
Because it was just a great conversation.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's one thing that comedians have done really well is they notice in real life what's funny.
Yeah.
And then they go on stage and they
I
talk
think
more about
that's
that.
a good point. I think the first thing that I did, and I still do, is I start immediately writing a script, and I think I may be doing that far too early on in the process, because what it ends up doing, Hennick, I don't know if you've seen Hennick's show, but it's one of the best.
Yeah.
Hennick, I sent over some little script for just like an intro. It would have been a minute long or something like that. And he's like, yeah, this is terrible. And it was
Why?
because it sounded like professorial and like I was giving some sort of lecture or something like that. And it just, that's not what it is, know? And so obviously like writing a script is important at some point, but maybe that first step is really let's just have a conversation here, see where it goes, and see what and that's a good way of bringing more of yourself into it. I mean, because you can be somebody else when you talk, but it's much easier to be somebody else when you write, and that's a bad thing. So
good.
So that's what I'm excited about as far as the foreseeable future, and I'm trying to think of what else. Immediately I'm really excited about going home and not being not house sitting for my parents, man. I can't wait to go back to my one bedroom apartment and just be on my own and not have anything else to do. And this view is phenomenal, but I'm totally fine not having it.
Well, and this is the house you grew up in, right?
This is the house I grew up in. Yeah.
So
yeah.
this is old hat too.
This is right, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't impress me. What are you excited about? What's
what am I excited
on the
about?
horizon? I know you've got this big project right now that you're working on. That I imagine you're really excited about.
Yes.
Not having to look at David anymore.
we can say that David ducked out. He had a brunch. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon, and he's having brunch in LA because when it's Sunday in LA, you can have brunch
anytime. Yeah. It's anytime. Yeah. And he'll probably watch like cartoons afterwards because that's David.
I love cartoons. Do you like cartoons? You're not a cartoon guy?
Not anymore. No.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I do sometimes. My kids will start watching something, and then I'll realize an hour later they've left, and I'm still watching it.
What would that be?
Anything.
Tangled,
the Disney show about Rapunzel. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm real into that one.
Okay.
I can tell you all about it.
Okay.
But yeah, man, we're working on. David and I are working on a project that we're going to be putting it out soon, which is it's like my first real like thing I've ever put out for magicians.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I'm also nervous about it, but it's been fun. It's also been a little tiring. So yeah, I will be happy when it's all sent off and done.
And it's cool. I mean, like I've been just obviously like tangentially related to seeing what you guys are doing, and David's talked to me about some of the processes and thinking.
Well, man, and you've been helping us the last couple of days put some stuff together.
It's all our first, I mean, and but it's cool. I mean, I know that if I ever have anything to release, I'll look back at seeing the things that you guys have done and whatever. But also, you guys are ready to launch the next product. You'd be like, oh, look, we know what we're doing.
Isn't life like that, though? I feel like my father-in-law, he's a builder.
Okay.
So, like, we would build props and stuff when we were younger, and when I was younger, and it's just funny to me that, like, the first time you build anything or make anything or shoot a video or whatever, you're like, I don't know how to do any of this.
Sure.
And then by the end of it, you're an expert at that one thing that you'll probably never have to do again.
Yeah.
But if someone goes, hey, I want to do this, you're like, I could tell you a few things that'll help out.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about, it's been a busy season for work, which is good.
Uh-huh.
But the next month, I think I only have one date that I'm flying where the family's not coming with me. So,
Oh wow. So your kids come with you often?
as much as we can. I mean,
Wow, that's great.
not as often as I'm making it sound like right now, but
Yeah.
like this month, I'm doing two weekend MC dates that are like within driving distance. Like one's in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's like a
okay.
5-6 hour
Yeah.
drive. So the family's going to come with us.
That's
with
exciting,
me.
yeah.
And then I'll be in Laguna for 4 days, and they're going to come with me to that. And
Yeah.
those are fun because like
Yeah.
whenever we go on vacation, we stay in like the cheapest hotel we can stay in.
Yeah,
And
right.
then like we go to these, it's at like the Ritz or the Four Seasons.
Sure. Yeah. That's
We're at
great.
like the Montage, and my kids are like,
Yeah.
"Dad, look, it's Justin Bieber
Yeah,
in the
right.
swimming pool."
That's great. Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's we're looking forward to that. It's kind of overdue. Little downtime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm in a little bit of a downtime here with April, and March was crazy for me, and so I'm just I'm doing nothing here, doing this house sitting thing. But after this is done, it's focus on like, okay, you do have some downtime, but now I got to like really work on these things I've been saying that I've been working on in terms of my show, you know. So one of my goals this year is to have like I've got a pretty solid 45-minute show, but I want to have like an hour and a half show.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because there are clients who want to have like a much longer show, or to have just a second show that's completely different from your first one. And
right.
I've got material that I know, but it's not a
Right.
show. It's not part of it,
Yep.
And so I would like to have another half an hour, 45 minutes, and now's the time to work on that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it opens up a lot of opportunities, even with clients being able to bring you back sooner.
Sure.
You know, because
yeah.
if they're like, oh, we loved having you in the summer.
Right.
We'll bring you back at Christmas time if we could do some different stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
that's great. That'll be really good, man.
Yeah. So that's something I gotta get myself to do. So,
That's cool, man.
yeah.
Well, dude, how can people see what you're doing? Follow along.
Rmaxgoodwin.com. Yeah, so RMAXGOODWIN.com and Instagram, I guess. Yeah, Rmax Goodwin.
Well, go check him out, guys. If you're listening right now, you can click on the link there, and on the show notes, it will have links to Rmax's site and his Instagram and all that. Go follow him. Go check him out. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thanks
This
for
was rad.
having me. I appreciate it as well.
So fun, dude.